Is it possible as a rideshare driver to have a condition known as being an addict? I understand this may sound crazy. Nevertheless, there is a case to be made, and that's what we're going to talk about today. What up, folks? Once again, it is your boy Tim with another ride-sharing video. I like smoking crack, but it fucks up my kidneys. I like doing coke, but it ruins my heart. This is what we're talking about. No matter what you like doing, if you are an addict at doing it, chances are it has a negative consequence as well. So what about ride sharing? Does this make any sense at all? Does this sound outrageous to you? Well, a lot of us rideshare drivers, we enjoy the freedom of being able to essentially be our own boss. There's no employer looking you in the eye, standing over you. You can start and stop whenever the hell you want to. So you do have a hell of a lot of freedom and flexibility to what we do. Some folks enjoy meeting new people constantly. And of course, we all love driving all day. So you get some really good benefits of things you like out of being a rideshare driver. However, like with any addiction, as stated earlier, every addiction comes with negative consequences. So we're going to talk about some of those, such as most rideshare drivers work more hours than their W-2 counterparts. Tell me of a rideshare driver that's making good money, and chances are you can show a W-2 employee working those same amount of hours that is making more. Now, obviously, rideshare drivers have a hell of a lot of expenses, so that's something that you need to be able to pull out the calculator and do, because a lot of drivers are out here, I make $1,000 a week, not factoring in all of the expenses that they're giving back while doing this. But in addition to the money, dealing with entitled customers that feel like you do not have the ability to say no, may get angry with you and things like that, even though you are officially an independent contractor. Not technically, officially, you are an independent contractor. You don't have to do a damn thing for the customer at their request. You don't even have to let them in your car. Nevertheless, the customers are entitled and they don't think you have the right to say no. Another consequence, zero upward mobility. In other words, no matter how long you work for Uber or Lyft, you drive for these ride-sharing companies, there's no upward mobility. You're not going to become team leader, some kind of manager, district manager, or some shit like that. Whereas if you worked at a factory, hell, even if you worked at McDonald's, there is plenty of room for growth and upward mobility. There is little to none in ride-sharing. Got drivers out here driving 7, 8, 9 years. Zero upward mobility. And last but not least, following up on zero upward mobility, most drivers, if they've been driving for Uber or Lyft 3 years or longer, have seen a downward spiral in what they bring home. Yours truly, I've driven off and on between jobs since 2014. I can tell you personally, the pay in 2023 compared to what it was in 2014 is about 20 to 25% of that. So we've had a 75% reduction in pay. My veteran drivers in the comment section, state in your market, when did you start driving? What were you averaging when you started versus now? I don't think there is a single rideshare driver out there in any market in America that has been driving for more than 2 or 3 years that can say, I don't make less now than I did when I started. I think just about every driver out there, if you've been driving that short period of time, 2 or 3 years, you make less than you did 2, 3 years ago. For those who've been driving longer, you make significantly less. As I pointed out, when the rideshare companies came to my market, $2.20 per mile to the driver. Now it's in the low 70s, I think 72 cents or something like that. And that's worldwide. That is not something unique to my market, unique to myself, unique to the vehicle or anything of that nature. That is worldwide. Anyone in rideshare that was driving in 2014, 2020, they make significantly less than they do now. So why the hell would you continue engaging in rideshare knowing that you're going to work longer than the average person? You're going to be dealing with entitled customers. There is zero upward mobility. And last but not least, you're likely to make less as the years go on. This is what we're talking about, where we're trying to make the case that there may be drivers that are actually addicted to doing this simply because they really enjoy driving, really enjoy meeting new people, and having the freedom to have lunch whenever you want, stop however long you want, work whenever you want. There's a lot of freedoms to it. But there's a hell of a lot of negatives that I'm talking about here. And last but not least, just like with just about any strong addiction, the worst consequence you can imagine does apply to ride sharing. The idea that you can engage in ride sharing and while you're driving, you could be raped, robbed, carjacked, or even murdered outright. That is a real life consequence of driving rideshare. Happens every week to a driver somewhere in this country, if not every day. Someone is raped, robbed, carjacked, or murdered. Got a story right now that I'm working on out of Chicago where someone stood right next to the car and emptied an entire magazine into the vehicle, taking a life in the process. So it happens quite often. So why the hell would you continue doing this? You're not making any money of any significance, and you're facing all these negative consequences. Does that not sound like a possible case to be made for addiction? I know it sounds crazy, but I wanted to present this to you because I've heard it on online. I've seen it floating around, and the more I read it, it does start to have a bit of clarity to it. But let your boy know in the comments, am I sounding crazy? Do you feel that you could easily get out of this and go back to a W-2 and not face any withdrawals? Or are you among some of the addicts where even though you know you're not making much money, or in some cases some of these drivers are losing money, but the thought of going back to a W-2 environment, an environment where the employer's standing over you, little to no freedom or flexibility, 30-minute lunch, 2 15-minute breaks, just a very limited, restrictive environment it turns you off so much that you're going to continue getting high even though you know the consequences. That's what we're talking about. That is how it feels to be an addict, that you enjoy those highs so much that you're willing to accept all of the risk, all of the negatives that come along with it. And like I stated earlier in the video, for my veteran drivers, if you've been driving 2-3 years, do you make more, less, or the same that you made when you started driving 2 or 3 years ago? As I stated before, all the drivers driving longer than that, I know you're making less. But let us know if you actually have the numbers. What does your take home look like now in 2023 compared to whatever year it was you started? I'd be curious to know that. As always, it's your boy Tim. Subscribe to the damn channel. Click the like button. See you in the next video.